Welcome to Deck Analysis and Testing. Today we're looking at CHRONOMALY. CHRONOMALY is an archetype with a lot of different levels, which makes them pretty bad as an Xyz deck. But don't worry, we do have a skill that fixes all of these issues. The Gateway to the Another Dimension skill recently even got a buff, so you don't have to play as many CHRONOMALY monsters as you previously need to. And also we got a new support in the form of the Globe that lets us access our one-card combo easier, and also provides us with guaranteed follow-up. Let's have a look at the cards. First is one copy of Moai. Moai is basically a free summon. It doesn't really have use other than that, and also it's searchable, so it makes your Nebula Disc a one-card combo that makes you an Xyz monster. Next is the new card Magella Globe. This card can attribute itself to summon a CHRONOMALY from deck, and also you can banish another CHRONOMALY card from the graveyard to add this card back from the graveyard to your hand. So this is basically a guaranteed follow-up even if you don't have any monsters in your hand. Next is 3 copies of Crystal Bones. This card can be special summoned if your opponent controls a monster and you don't. And also if it's special summoned, you can special summon a CHRONOMALY from your hand or graveyard. This is a really good way to extend if you don't want to use your normal summon, which is really nice. You can leave your normal summon as a backup plan if your opponent stops your Crystal Bones with one of their disruptions if you go second. Next is one copy of Nebula Disc. This card, when normal summon, can add any CHRONOMALY card, not just monsters. It can add spells, and add it to your hand. And also it has the second effect of summoning itself from your graveyard if you control a CHRONOMALY monster. But you can only use the 2 effects one per turn. You can't use them both, you can only choose one of them. And also, if you use the second effect, you cannot activate any other effects other than CHRONOMALY effects during the turn you use that effect. Next is 3 copies of Tusparok. This is a 1-card combo. If it's normal or special summoned, you can send a CHRONOMALY monster from your deck or extra to your graveyard, and it has an attack reducing effect, but the most important part is just that it sends Nebula Disc to your graveyard, so it has it can use its graveyard effect to summon itself back, and now you have 2 monsters to make your Xyz monsters. And also it has a second effect if it's used as a Xyz material on a number monster. That monster can attack 2 monsters in every battle phase. For the spells and traps, we are playing a lot of them because CHRONOMALY is really consistent and allows you to play a lot of non-engine as a sort of protection alongside your Xyz monsters. First is 1 copy of Technology. This card can banish a CHRONOMALY monster from your graveyard and then look at the top 2 cards of your deck, pick one of them and add it to your hand, and send the other one to your graveyard. This is mainly played because it is searchable with Nebula Disc, and it basically gets you a free back row by excavating your top 2 cards of your deck and picking the best one to add to your hand. And it turns one of your searches from Nebula Disc into potentially more disruptions from your staple back row. We have 3 copies of Xyz Import as one of our disruptions. It's really good in combination with our rank 5 Vimana because Vimana boosts its own attack. So you can basically attach any opponent's monster under it as material because it has quite a high attack, and your opponent's monsters usually will not have a higher attack than your own monster. Next is the usual 3 copies of Horror House and 3 copies of Cloak and Dagger. Probably the best free-to-play staples that you can play in any free-to-play deck. For the extra deck, we can only play CHRONOMALY monsters or light number Xyz monsters, so we're only going to play those. We're playing 2 Ultimate Leo Utopia Ray that we probably won't summon. It's just there as a card for us to send with our skill to make our monsters level 5. We have 1 copy of Utopia and Utopia the Lightning to rank on top of our Utopia, which helps us get rid of stuff that otherwise really hard to get rid of because it can just run over it by battle and also prevent it from activating its floating effects. We have 2 copies of Vimana. It's probably the best boss monster in the deck. It has the once per turn effect to negate a monster effect by detaching 2 materials, and also once per turn you could attach one of your CHRONOMALY monsters in your graveyard or an Xyz monster and attach it to a discard, and then one face-up monster on the field gains the half of the attack of that monster that you attached, which is pretty good. It not only replenishes the material of discard, so you basically never run out of negates, it also boosts its own attack, so it's really hard for your opponent to beat over it by battle. Next is one copy of the rank 4. This card can change your opponent's monster's attack to 0, and it's a quick effect, which makes it really good. It's activatable even during the damage step, so your opponent can't chain something like a Book of Moon. They would have to activate it preemptively, and if they do so, you can just chain its effect anyway, so you can just beat over your opponent's monsters with any other monster that you have, which is pretty nice. And we're also playing one copy of the Heraldry rank 4, just as a card for us to send to make our monsters level 4 if we need to. Okay, let's have a look at the expensive version. It's pretty much the same, but we're just playing more one-card starters in the form of Nebradisk, Searching Moai, that is our one-card combo, and we're just playing better back row in general. We're playing a triple Book of Moon, triple Crackdown, and triple Warning Point, and one bottomless Trap Hole as the final card in our 20-card deck. And also because the skill works the way it does, let's actually have a look at the skill. Send one monster from your deck or extra deck to your graveyard and change all the levels of your monsters on field to the monster that you have sent to the graveyard. And if you send a monster from your deck, you must also send one monster from your hand. So notice that it's actually generic. So if you meet the skill requirements, as you can see, you cannot play any other monsters other than Chronomalies or Light Numbers. As long as you meet that requirement, you can actually change any monster's level to the monster that you sent. So, for example, if you steal a monster with Crackdown, you can actually change your opponent's monster's level to the monster that you sent with the skill. Okay, let's have a look at the replays. First, we are going first, which is really nice. This deck loves going first, as you can probably tell by the amount of staple back row that we are playing. This is very much a back row deck, so it's always nice to open with at least one starter plus any number of back row. But our opponent has a Veiler for us, so we can't really make any Xyz, but at least we can still set our Cloak and hope for the best. Our opponent is playing Life Twin, which is amazing because we know exactly what monster to declare. We are going to declare his Leela and get to banish it, which ends their turn. Amazing. We are going to grab a copy of Technology to hopefully grab ourselves a back row to contest our opponent's monsters. We're still going to be able to make Vimana by sending the rank 5 from our extra deck to the graveyard. And then now we could activate Technology to grab another Cloak and Dagger because we know exactly what deck they're playing. Cloak and Dagger becomes a lot better that now that we have confirmation on what our opponent is exactly playing. Our opponent will be activating their Roland in hand, which we can negate, so we could still destroy our opponent's monster by battle. Our opponent summons another Kill, and we just declare Leela again, which banishes the monster, and they're gonna activate Forbidden Droplet and negate our monster negate, which is annoying. So he could summon his monster for free. If we had to negate, we could negate the summon of Phoenix Gearfree because it summons using an effect, but because it's negated, we can't even boost its own attack using its first effect. But oh well, we still have follow-up in the form of Crystal Bones, which uses up one of his negates, but unfortunately it doesn't really use up our normal summon, so we can just add back the Globe with its graveyard effect, and summon Nebradisk from our graveyard. Now we have 2 level 4s, let's make the number 36 and beat over our opponent's monster by making it 0, but I guess our opponent will just scoop before we can do that. Okay, in our second game we are also going first, so it's going to be a lot more beneficial to us than to our opponent, and this time we did open with the 1-card combo plus trap and hopefully another one using the effect of Technology. And again, our opponent has a hand trap, which ends our turn, but not before we send a Chronomally Vimana to our graveyard, so we have a monster for us to banish with our Technology, so we can at least grab another trap before we end turn. Our opponent will end their turn without actually doing anything, which is nice for us. So even though our deck isn't very isn't very aggressive, so we can't really win this turn. We can at least bring them down to 450 and set free pass. So now we have 1 monster negate plus 3 back row, which is really good. Our opponent is playing Mayakashi, so they would be able to play through some number of interruption, but probably not enough to win the game. So our opponent will chalice our Xyz, which is fine. We still have 3 back row. We will import one of his monsters away. We'll Cloak declare his Mayakashi, and he will be scooping. Okay, finally, let's have a look at the expensive version. We are actually going second this time, which is interesting. Let's see how well this deck does against our opponent going first. And in the expensive version, I elect to play a less flexible version. So I'm not actually playing Crystal Bones, which helps me play through our opponent's Disruption going second. Instead, we're just loading up on 1-card starters and a bunch of back row and hope that our opponent doesn't really stop us too much. And even if our opponent does stop us, we still have a bunch of back row to contest whatever our opponent has, so it's still not the end of the game even if we get disrupted, which is really likely. Our opponent, instead of disrupting us, will actually make a Sky Prison, which actually prevents us from doing the usual 1-card combo. But we have Nebra Disc, which would have been fine if it weren't negated by Warning Point. So I guess we're just gonna end turn with 3 set cards, which is probably good enough. Our opponent will activate the effect of a Kepler to try to bounce back the Orthros to pop our back row, but we can just negate the Kepler. And he will try to pop our back row, which doesn't really work because it's negated, and that's the entire reason why he even tried to use the effect of Kepler to bounce himself back in the first place. But we can just stop that, and we can stop the Pendulum Summon using our Warning Point. We can stop the Xyz with our Crackdown, and now we are free to combo. Even though our graveyard is still locked by the Lingering effect, we can still just normal summon another guy, and our opponent will be scooping. Good game, good game.